Nation. The hobby is the people. Weekly news and interviews. It's your number one source. Sports Card Nation. The hobby is the people. Sports Card Nation.
Welcome to another jam-packed episode of the Sports Card Nation podcast, the show that brings you all the important news from the sports card hobby. We'll have some debates, opinions, new release schedules, and info. Plus, we'll also discuss the sports that so directly affect the hobby we all love. We'll mix in an occasional gambling tip or two, throw in some life stuff, and bring you great guest interviews from the hobby and sports dignitaries. And if you're good listeners, we may even give away a few things now and then. Now, here's the guy who wanted the cards and not the gum, John Newman.
Okay, thanks, Madge. John Newman, Sports Card Nation podcast, episode 62. Probably scratching your head right now saying, why did I just hear a Madonna song to open the show? Well, there's two reasons. One is better than the other. Let me give you the not-so-good one first. As a younger man, I had a thing for Madonna, let's just say. I really had a thing for Madonna until she got those arms that looked like she could kick my ass, and then I fell out of love with her. But the bigger reason why that song was playing, that'll take you back to a year we're going to go back to on this show, thanks to our guest, a big year in the card industry, 1989. And Upper Deck Baseball and Upper Deck itself made its debut in 1989, and when Upper Deck came out, that song you just heard was number one, actually for about 3 weeks on the Billboard Top 100. So I kind of always equate that song to the Upper Deck release, kind of goofy. You know, you sometimes affiliate sounds to events in your life, and I don't know. Other people do it to that extent, but Like a Prayer by Madonna, number one when Upper Deck Baseball came out and became number one in its own right. And my guest on the program today is none other than Tom Geideman, employee number one of Upper Deck. So a lot of number ones here, and we're going to talk about another number one, card number one, Ken Griffey Jr., from that 89 Upper Deck set. That card needs no introduction. People who are not in the hobby know what that card is. But a lot of people may not know some of the backstory and how that set and how that card came about. And Tom Geideman's joining us today to share that. And a lot of other stuff, too. What was going on at Upper Deck at the time. And, unless you heard the story before, it's definitely going to be very interesting. And, he even shared more stories off the air and talking to him. So he agreed he's going to come back on and tell you some later stories post-1989, if you will. And he's got some great behind-the-scenes stuff from the Upper Deck days. And really, I enjoy every conversation I have with every guest on this show. No doubt about that. That's not lip service. But today's was really a really fun one going back. I was 17 in 1989. Tom Geideman was 18 at 1989, and Ken Griffey Jr. was 19 in 1989. I was doing on the weekends when not in school. I was doing shows around the New York area and states around, so Pennsylvania, New York, and sometimes even into Mass, depending, and Jersey, depending on what was going on. And so Upper Deck was huge for me. That chase for that Griffey was huge to me. And, it's crazy to think, the card that really, kicked the hobby into another level in 1989, and my show circuit into another level. Here we are 31 years later, and I'm talking to the man who got that thing off the ground and is the architect behind it. I would have never, really have guessed that, and it was a big thrill for me. I think you'll enjoy it as well. Let's go back to last episode. I know we've got to turn the page and move on. I think it's important. I have, but I just want to touch on the Kobe homage episode. I did the whole episode to Kobe. I just didn't feel comfortable doing our usual kind of upbeat. I thought it was too big of a story to do that. I hope you enjoyed the show. I did get some feedback from folks that they thought I did a very good job with it. I appreciate that, especially if you really feel like that. I wanted to do the story, the person, and the tragedy. It's due diligence, and we do have to move on as a hobby, as a people, and it's like I said on that show, folks. That Mamba mentality stuff. You can apply that to hobby. You can apply that to personal. You can apply that to business, and I do try to do that even before recent events. That I just highlighted it because of that. So. We turned the page, gone but never forgotten, obviously. But again, I want to thank you for bearing with the show, allowing me to do something I felt in my heart was the right thing to do. If you noticed, if you heard the show, I got it emotional probably 2 or 3 times where I either had some tears going or choked them back and got choked up. That's real stuff, I think it affected a lot of people like that. As a human, it's hard not to be. As a dad, it's hard not to be. So I appreciate you giving me an hour and 20 minutes on that subject. We continue. This will be a regular format show. Obviously, I just mentioned Tom Geideman, Upper Deck employee number 1, will be my guest. Great interview, as always, and glad he's come on. Another programming note for this week's episode. Thanks to our sponsor, One of One Card Shop, Steve Chata, giving away a $50 break credit this week and the next 3 weeks. Go to Twitter for one way to enter the contest for free and get a second entry at some point later on in the show. It's going to be after the Tom Geideman interview. I'm going to ask a trivia question based on something Tom said during his interview. Answer that trivia question correctly by private messaging the show. Don't make your answer public and give it away for everyone. You'll get a second entry if you entered via Twitter, or one if you didn't. But way to get an extra entry to win a $50 break credit this week. So without further ado, let's get this show started.
Sports Card Nation Podcast is your weekly hobby and sports podcast. Now on tons of platforms including Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Stitcher, and many more. Listened to in 44 different countries globally, Sports Card Nation is one of the most interactive podcasts around, providing great content, giveaways, and some of the hobby's best interview guests without time constraints. Thousands can't be wrong. We want to thank all the wonderful listeners around the world, our awesome guests on the show, and our tremendous sponsors making us what we are today. Remember, without you, there's no us.
It's time for What's Cracking. All right, let's talk about the big event of the week so far, the Million Card Rip Party in Dallas, Texas. Did not watch it live, just have seen clips and postings on social media. Huge event, obviously 1 million cards came out of the packs, all done by breakers. We're not going to go revisit any of some base cards didn't ship. Angst, it is what it is. You know, the breakers advertise, hey, we're not shipping base. You buy in at your own peril, at your own risk. You know, they were upfront about that. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that. Tons of 1-of-1s came out. Our own sponsor, 1-of-1 Card Shop, hit 10 of those alone. You know, some crazy cards came out, obviously, when you open that many cases at one time. You can check social media to see what those are. The list is too long. My take on it is, while it's a cool event, I get it. They want to open the 2020 baseball season in a big way, and sure, that's exactly what they did. I don't know if it sets a great tone. I mean, a lot of these big cards have come out. You know, obviously, if they're all 1-of-1s, you're not going to pull them. I'm not going to pull them. You know, I'm probably the wrong guy to ask, but would it affect how much I open? I'm the wrong guy to ask, because if you know me or know about the show, I'm going to be cutting down on a lot of my wax consumption anyway. But if I was going to open a lot of 2020 tops, I'd be lying if I said it probably would affect how much I would open, because of just the amount that was open at that one setting in one day, literally. The other thing, the breaking was done in the suite section. I would have liked to seen it on the field. I thought that would have been kind of cool to actually do it on the turf. I'm sure there was reasons why they couldn't. One cool thing, Pete Alonso opened the first pack. Being a Mets guy, that was pretty cool. And he was there, and he signed autographs, and he walked around, and you know, that aspect was very cool. I think the event was very good. I don't want to completely bash it. I think you know why Topps does it. They wanted the publicity. I thought it was odd they picked Dallas as the setting, right in Panini's backyard, as kind of a na boo boo. We're on your turf. Look what we're doing, setting a record right in your town. You know, Topps won't say that, but that's what it looks like to me. I just think when you open that much right off the bat before it's supposedly technically released, which is the following day, and just the stuff that came out of it already, I don't know. If I was going to open a lot, I'd be lying if it said, if you know, it didn't affect how much I would open. But you know, the design itself, I think it's growing on me from when I originally saw it last year when they released it ahead of time. You know, so it is out now. Talk about some of that stuff too. They're doing tins, Walmart exclusive tins, 75 card tins, 6-player tins. So you either get a Trout, a Bellinger, a Judge, a Vlad Jr., a Betts, or an Alonso. They will be selling them in the store. You can also buy them online. They are currently sold out online, so you're either going to restock and you can get them that way, or maybe you can catch them on the shelf at the store. The tins will have one chrome Decade's Best insert that's exclusive to the tin. They will also have one 85 style insert. They will have 5 turkey red inserts and 1 chrome turkey red insert, and then there'll be another unknown insert or just another extra insert in there. The tins are a pretty cool concept. We might be familiar with those tins. You've seen like Upper Deck do it for hockey, their flagship. It's kind of nice to see Topps do it with theirs. So I'm probably going to grab a couple tins if I can. And maybe one blaster. I'm not going to go nuts. Some of that exactly why I said just with a lot of that stuff already kind of out. Cat's out of the bag, so to speak. Let's go into some sports news. Let's go to baseball. Some big trade went down. If you're a Red Sox fan, you were probably not pumped about this. Mookie Betts has a new home as he heads west to the Dodgers, along with David Price and a bunch of cash that Boston is sending to L.A. It's a 3-team deal, and also involving the Minnesota Twins. And the Minnesota Twins send Graterol, their high prospect pitcher, to Boston, and in return they get from the LA Dodgers Kenta Maeda. So the Twins are really bolstering their staff for a run now. The Dodgers had to give up Alex Verdugo to the Red Sox. A lot of people like Verdugo, but he's got a little bit of a back issue. He hasn't played. He's missed some time. I know a lot of Red Sox fans are upset. They literally just put bets on the cover of everything, from the media guide to the ticket brochures to the tickets themselves, and now he's wearing Dodger blue. They're trying to get under that salary cap and quick. The Dodgers made another deal. Jock Peterson staying in California, but headed to the Anaheim Angels for infielder Luis Renigflo. So minor deal there, but no room for Jock with Mookie Betts coming over to them. A trade in the NBA, a couple of them just announced. Andre Iguodala is going to the Miami Heat from the Grizzlies. No terms officially said yet, but that looks like it's going down. And the biggest trade, not in terms of blockbuster, but amount of players and teams in one trade, it's a 4-team trade in the NBA. I'll give you the rundown as best I can. Houston's going to get Robert Covington. Atlanta's going to get Clint Capella. Minnesota's going to get Malik Beasley and Juan Hernangomez, along with Evan Turner and Jared Vanderbilt. Denver's getting Shabazz Napier, Bates Diop, Vonleh, and Green. Atlanta gets also Nene Hilario, and Houston gets Jordan Bell. So huge trade, with the centerpiece probably being Covington and Capella. I don't think I'm breaking news here. The Kansas City Chiefs are your Super Bowl champions. Get ready for the Patrick Mahomes increase, and probably deservedly so. Youngest MVP winner and Super Bowl MVP winner combined. And they're going to, they have all the looks of an early type of dynasty type of team that can make a run every year, similar to what the Patriots used to be. If you watch the game, they did not look great for 3 quarters. Mahomes was a little off, but when it mattered, he kicked it into gear. And thanks to Jimmy G and his 2.7 fourth quarter passer rating, the Chiefs' comeback was in full effect, and they're your Super Bowl champions. Topps Heritage will be out shortly, and in those blasters at Walmart, they will have a scratch-off insert in those. The Steve Cohen buying the Mets deal looks like it's dead. And again, the Mets are right where we always are, wishing something bad would happen to the Wilpons. And, It's like I told my son when the deal was first announced. It made me nervous that they put a 5-year time span on it. When someone spends that kind of money to buy a team, they don't want to wait 5 years. And it just smacked to me of the Wilpons just buying time, stalling, and it appears they changed some of the terms. Cohen said, no thanks, but no thanks, I'm out. And the Mets are stuck with the Wilpons for who knows how long. Please, Major League Baseball, come in, do something. This is terrible. Pete Rose applied for reinstatement. That's not news. He does that every so often, but he's pointing to the lack of punishment given to the players involved in the Houston Astros cheating scandal as the door to open up. We'll see. I don't expect him to be reinstated, but this might be the closest he gets to it. We'll see what Rob Manfred decides or how he responds. No word yet. It's not a news week without a little litigation action, and hey, we don't disappoint. Upper Deck suing Panini for copyright infringement. 3 cards, got the Michael Jordan in the background treatment. You probably remember the Rodman. There was a Pippen now, and I guess another card that used MJ's image in the background. So Upper Deck is suing Panini. Leaf is suing Upper Deck, and so it's, card wars in litigation, I guess, and we'll see how this turns out. I think it's sort of ironic, too, this lawsuit, because you got Panini suing 3 different fake card makers, and now they're getting sued for copyright infringement. So it's like the last 20 minutes of The Departed. Everyone's after everybody. We'll see how this gets resulted and how it shakes out. So if you're like me, you tuned in to Zion Williamson's first game as a pro in the NBA. He wore 2 jerseys during that game. You want to own a piece of history or 2 pieces of history. Both of those jerseys are on NBA auctions. Starting at the time of this show, Friday, they'll be up for bid. So you can own either one or both of those Zion Williamson first game worn jerseys via NBA auctions. I'd be curious to see. I'll try to keep an eye on them to see what those wind up bringing for final sale totals. But probably a pretty penny based on Zion Mania and the significance of those jerseys and what they represent. Add another online exclusive Topps monthly release card set, if you will, or ordering system like Living Set. A little bit different. It's going to be 1 card per month. It's called Game Within a Game. 16-point high glossy stock. It's going to be Paul Janis doing the artwork. Paul Janis. Again, 1 card per month, $7.99. There is quantity discounts, as always. And as always, if you probably wait and grab them off eBay, you'll get them even cheaper from those of buying them in bulk and then relisting them. The first player in the set this month will be Aaron Judge. Aaron Judge will be card number 1. So it's game within a game, 1 card a month. First guy, Aaron Judge, $7.99 a piece, 16-point glossy stock. So another card, online exclusive from Topps. I saw what these look like. They are pretty sharp. It's nice that it's only 1 card a month rather than 2 or 3 every week, and that can add up and hurt your wallet. So, but add another one to the list from Topps. All right, real happy to have my next guest join me on the Sports Card Nation podcast Monster Energy guest line. He's famous for a few things, but I'll call him the architect of one of the most iconic cards in the hobby. I was 17 at the time when this card came out. It's a card that you don't even have to be a diehard hobbyist to recognize it. And so I'm not going to delay him any further. Tom Geideman, thanks for joining us.
Hi there. Thank you for having me.
So I know you've probably answered these a lot of these questions pertaining to the Griffey Jr. 8 days to Sunday, probably ad nauseum. But tell us a little bit. For those that maybe, I'm sure a lot of people have heard, but I'm sure there's some that haven't. Like, you were the first. And if correct me if I'm wrong, you were really employee one at Upper Deck.
Yeah, that's actually true. So I actually predated the corporation. So I was hired before the corporation was actually founded. So yeah, I was employee number one. They had a building next to where we did the color separation.
Yeah.
It was owned by the person who owned it was Orvis, and Boris Corbell, who's one of the founders, he owned Orvis, and he had an empty building next to it, and so he set me up in that building and then hired a temporary secretary, and it was just the two of us in there. Yeah,
just, when you think about how this all, how things happen, it's just, sometimes the details are hard to believe or people wouldn't believe it. And here we are 30 years later, truthfully, from that card. And tell us a little, you were young too. I was 17 in 1989. I know you were, somewhere around that age as well. You were young.
Yeah, I was 18. I turned 18 in May.
Yeah.
And got hired in June. So I was 18 in 1 month.
Yeah, so here I'm 17, you're 18, Griffey at this time.
He was 19.
Yeah, I mean everyone is a teenager in the sense, and I mean there's no way at that point you had any idea what this was going to become. I gotta imagine.
Yeah, I had absolutely no clue. Yeah, I was wide-eyed and had no idea about what was going on, really. I mean, it was just kind of a dream situation. I used to joke around that I got paid to watch SportsCenter.
Yeah.
So, read the newspaper.
Yep. So one of your roles and how the Griffey card came about, and you can interject or correct me anytime I get off the rails, was to start in the way the checklist and who was going to be, and in this case the number one card, the first card, which has a significance, obviously. And Griffey at the time, I mean, he was a prospect. He's the son, of Ken Griffey, obviously, and but not super highly touted. I mean, we didn't have the scouting and I mean, we did, but not to the levels we have it in today's game. Yeah. How, kind of tell everyone, listen, kind of how this all kind of shook out.
Okay, so basically I was left in control of designing the whole entire set. So I laid out everything. I picked all the players, selected all the photos. We outsourced the stats on the card and the bios.
Yeah.
I put it all together. So I generated a list of all the players that I wanted. I generated a list of the content. Originally, I wanted to have the top 26 cards be number one draft picks, but we found that to be not possible. Mm-hmm. So we changed it to Star Rookies, which is an homage, if you will, to the rated rookies of Donruss.
Yep.
I always thought that was a cool thing. So once we found out that the 26 draft picks wasn't feasible, photography was pretty impossible. Not all the draft picks signed with the major league teams too. I think the Brewers had, it was Alex Fernandez.
Yep.
I think that's who it was, and he was the 13th pick, and he didn't sign with the Brewers, so we basically found out that wasn't possible, and it wasn't feasible. So we switched it to Star Rookies, which was the homage to the rated rookies of Donruss. We wanted to feature, so there's 26 because there were 26 Major League Baseball teams at the time, and it wasn't one per team. It was the best 26 prospects overall that were eligible for Rookie of the Year. That was sort of the criteria.
Yeah.
And then from my standpoint, so I used to work at a card shop called Upper Deck.
Yeah.
And in Anaheim. And when I was working there, they had little snap cases of team sets, and there was a plaque that said team sets. Of course, the price reflected a team set, not 25, Don Mattingly cards or Wally Joyner or Jose Canseco.
Yep.
And somebody would see the card in front that was, say, $1 in the Beckett, and they think there was 25, and the price was like $2 or $3 or $5, and they'd say, "Was that 25 Don Mattingly's?" And you're like politely saying, "No, look at the team sign, the team set sign."
Yeah.
Like, it's obviously not. But we always had to take the top guy in the team sets, and you put him face forward, and then you take the checklist card and put it at the back card, so that the checklist of everybody who was in the set would pop out, so you could just flip it over backwards and say, "Okay, Tommy John's here, this guy's here, that guy's here."
Yeah.
And it's because obviously back then they didn't have every single guy. They didn't have all the rookies, all the prospects. They were players who were missed, who weren't included in the set. So the idea with the Star Rookies was the best player would be facing forward, so he'd be card number 1, and the last card would be the checklist,
Yeah.
and facing out the back of it. So all you had to do was take the top 27 cards, which is the 26 Star Rookies and the 1 checklist card, and just throw it in a snap case, put it on a counter. That was kind of the idea.
Yeah.
There really wasn't any idea to, this is the first card in the first set, quite honestly.
Yeah.
Because when I laid out the sheet, the content was that the first 26 were those Star Rookies. But the Star Rookies are the guys who are the September call-ups. The photograph, there's not many photos of those guys.
Yeah.
You're lucky to get one. And so we designed those cards. Actually, I designed that Star Rookie card. I have a sketch of it that turned into the actual card design. We designed it with one photo facing out on the front and then a giant bio on the back, as opposed to the 2 four-color photos for that one reason. So the first form that I actually turned over was Form 2, which is cards 101 to 200. And the last form that I turned over was Form 1, which was cards 1 to 100. Griffey was selected as card number 1 because, so at the time we had Sandy Elmore Jr., who won AAA Player of the Year,
Yeah.
son of Sandy Elmore. We had AA Player of the Year was Gary Sheffield, who was the nephew of Dwight Gooden,
Yep.
was a rock star at that point. And then the Class A Player of the Year was Griffey, and the Minor League Player of the Year, back-to-back Minor League Player of the Year, was Greg Jeffries with the
Yeah.
Mets.
Yeah.
And switch hitter, he was like a 20-20-20 guy.
Yeah.
Well, and 20 stolen bases. He could hit like 20 triples, 20 doubles, 20 overs, like that type of guy. That's sort of a Stan
Yeah.
Musial-ish type bat. And so the prevailing logic was Griffey had no shot of making the Major League club at a spring training. He only played 17 games in AA and got hurt.
Yeah.
And 17 games in AA, no matter how good you were, was not going to get you necessarily. And you're 19 years old. You're supposed to start the year in AA, play half the season there, work up to AAA, and then get the September call-up
Yeah.
later in the year. So actually the reason that I chose him as card number 1 is because I thought that Griffey would be sort of an exclusive by default. Because
Yeah.
I thought he was the best player overall anyway, long-term.
Yeah.
And I thought that nobody else would have included him because photos would be really tough to come by, and there, again, was no real shot of him starting the season in the Major League. Nobody really thought he was going to do it. He just had an amazing spring training.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, and then, as luck would have it, the photographer for the California Angels was our Upper Deck photographer, BJ Lavero,
Yep.
and he was also the West Coast sports photographer for Sports Illustrated. So he shot pretty much on assignment everything on the West Coast. He was the go-to guy for Sports Illustrated. So they had sent him to shoot in San Bernardino. San Bernardino Spirit is where Griffey was playing, Griffey
Yeah.
Jr. So they had him shoot a father-son day because that was the one day the Reds, yeah, he was with the Reds then. The Reds were in Los Angeles, and the San Bernardino Spirit were playing, and there was one off day.
Yeah.
So Junior was actually able to play in front of his father. So Sports Illustrated had arranged to do a photo shoot of the two together. Because VJ shot it, we were able to capture these like beautiful images of Junior.
Yeah.
And the photo that was used, it's a shot of Junior wearing his San Bernardino Spirit uniform.
Yeah. Yeah.
And those uniforms had a navy blue background. They had a silver F and a red star. And the Seattle Mariners at that time had a royal blue steel background, and they had a yellow S with a drop shadow.
Yep.
That was also yellow, and so we used this machine. It's called a Cytex machine. That was $1 million at the time, and they used it for all the color separation. So they did color separation at Orbis for National Geographic, and this is a little background. At that point, everything was slides. There was no digital photography. That was never even a thought.
Yeah.
Everything was slides, and Kodak film had a blue hue to it, and Fujifilm had a blue film hue to it, and Kodak film had a red hue to it. And so, like, if you were to shoot a teal, like the dolphins, or later the marlins,
Mm-hmm.
the Fujifilm would look light blue, and the Kodak film would look green. They were never able to shoot it correctly
Yeah.
with the film. So they would scan it in on the drum scanner, the slides, and then they would call out the exact colors that it was supposed to be. So they would correct all the issues that film would have distorted it.
Yeah.
So whether it's nighttime or daytime and shadows, and they were able to lighten up faces so you could see inside. Basically what everybody has now with Photoshop.
Yeah.
It was this huge machine that was revolutionary that nobody really had.
Yeah. Now I knew too about it being a San Bernardino hat. There's probably a few people out there may not even realize it because it such a good job was done on it.
Yeah. There's actually one thing about that card that I called out that his turtleneck go from navy blue to that royal blue, and they didn't do it. And so when I actually saw the finished stuff, it was too late to change it because that was the last form, and they were just trying to rush it to get it out.
Yeah.
And I saw it, and it bugged me forever because, like, why would a guy wear a navy blue turtleneck with a royal blue hat? It isn't making sense.
Yeah.
Because it's not in the color scheme at all. It's obviously not a big deal, but it just sort of irked me at the time.
Yeah.
It's just kind of funny to hear, the little...
Yeah, well, it's true. It's your attention to detail there coming out that, you wanted everything to be exactly perfect. Obviously, the rest is history. That card to this day, is just... there's, my wife, I tell the story on the show every once in a while. My wife's not a card person. She doesn't. I could hand her cards of this person or that person. She wouldn't know them from Adam. And even she knows, the Upper Deck Griffey Junior rookie. That's the impact that card has made past the hobby, even past the hobby. I know you, like I said, you've talked about it probably literally millions of times. Does it get old, honestly, Tom, like talking about it so much?
No, not at all. No, it's actually fun because I'm like my friends, they don't ask me about the story, so it's not like I'm telling like every day of my life walking around and I've got a T-shirt or something that says, "Hey, I made the Griffey card." So.
Yeah, don't do that because if you do, you will have to tell the story.
Yeah, it all stops. If they recognize me, if there's one person in the world who recognizes me for anything, then I can tell them the story. I have no problem. No, it's actually kind of cool because it's hard to believe that it was 30 years ago because it just seems like
it is. It's crazy.
Recently.
Yeah, it's crazy. 30 years now.
But
go ahead.
It's always a good time talking about it, and reminiscing, and they were great times. So it was really pretty magical to fortunate to get in that situation, and then luckily I had enough foresight to make some decisions that turned out to be impactful. So awesome.
We're going to step away for a quick break, but more with Tom Geideman when we come back. Let me tell you about Iron Sports Cards and Collectibles. They're your number one source for all your PSA grading submission needs. They're constantly submitting, so they are always at the ready when you're ready. They offer various turnaround levels at the lowest prices around. Cards are insured to and from PSA at no additional cost to you. And they even provide the card savers your precious cards need to be put in before being sent to PSA. They take care of that for you. And because of their elite status at PSA, they have some of the best turnaround times around. They even have group chats for each submission, so you know exactly where your status is on your cards. They have open dialogue and open communication. What are you waiting for? Contact Rob on Facebook on Iron Sports Card Group. That's Iron Sports Card Group on Facebook. Or get a hold of Rob on Twitter at Iron Sports Cards, all one word, at Iron Sports Cards. They'll take care of you. And here, right out the gate, I mean, this is one of your first things you did at Upper Deck. I mean, talk about a great hit right off the bat. That being said, what did you find, like, pressure to, like, what do I do next? Like, it's kind of like a band that has a great album. You know, the first album goes platinum, and you know they feel that pressure to, like, how do I follow that up? Did you feel that anything way, like, hobby wise, or, you know, as someone in the industry?
Well, a little bit, definitely. So if you actually look at the 1990 checklist, the card number 1 is the Star Rookie checklist. So it's no longer, so the first 27 cards are the Star Rookies, but card number 1 is the checklist as opposed to card 27. So I wasn't having to anoint every year the guy. So I kind of played it safe that way. But there's a funny story too. So before I was hired at Upper Deck, I was at Upper Deck Card Shop, and I was also just a collector.
Yeah.
And I was sort of like a rookie stockbroker. So I scoured, like, I knew all the top prospects from every organization, and I could, like, watch baseball games and tell you every single player of every team, just like a baseball nut. Yeah. And so I was pulling Fred McGriff and Craig Biggio, for example, out of the common bins, because at that point they weren't anybody. And Roberto Alomar, Benito Santiago, a few other players that I'd speculate on, and I had a pretty good track record. I had a pretty good formula for determining who was going to be good and who wasn't. And so they actually, at the card shop, they hired me partially because I had this knowledge, but then I would buy all these cards cheap before they had a chance to do anything, and so he didn't have them when the guys hit.
Yeah.
When they became stars, he'd look at his inventory and go, "Oh, how many rookie cards? They're all gone. Like, I bought them all."
Wonder how that happened.
So I had a limit after that. I wasn't allowed to buy the entire inventory.
You were banned.
That or you would at the shop.
That or you would pick out cards and then he'd not sell them to you and then put them aside in his bag. Well, that's
there was one guy at the shop. He was just sort of just a customer, and he would be there all the time. He was kind of annoying.
Yeah.
And every time I would go buy something, he wouldn't ask me about it. He'd see who was buying, and then he would go out and buy the same guys.
Yeah. So he didn't want to be friendly. He was just being sneaky and just picking your brain.
Yeah, exactly. Like, if he would have asked me for the information, I would have shared it with him. But when he's, like, trying to scoop me on my own stuff, I was like, hey, wait a minute. So the second year, the 1990 card, because I was still doing the same thing. I was still speculating on cards and investing. So none of my friends had that King Griffey Jr. number 1, by the way, because I traded them, every single one of them. So I would trade all my basketball cards, Jordan second years, whatever it took. I would get rid of everything to get the Griffey card. The second year, we had the first year we had a guy named Tony Chance.
Yep.
And he was card number 3. And Tony Chance was selected because we had, like, Jerome Walton was on the list, White Smith.
Yeah.
We didn't have any pictures of them. So, because they just didn't exist, we didn't have a list in spring training because Upper Deck didn't exist in spring training. So it was just going to stock agencies and photographers and trying to find any images that they had of the guys on the list. So we had to compromise and find guys that we ended up having shots of. So Tony Chance was one of those guys. So he made the Star Rookie set because we had photos of him. And he never made the majors, not even for a cup of coffee.
Yeah. So
in 1990, because that guy was, like, trying to scoop me on all the players that I was picking up, and as an homage to Tony Chance, there was a guy in the minor leagues named Tom Drees. Tom Drees.
Yep.
And he was a pitcher with the White Sox, and he threw 4 no-hitters in the minor leagues. I think he threw 2 or 4 that one year. I have to go back and look. But his numbers were ridiculous.
Yeah.
But he was not a prospect. He was just a guy who was dominating minor league baseball players.
Yeah.
But not a major league pitcher. And so when I was at my friend's card shop where that guy was hanging out, we just started talking him up in front of that guy. Oh yeah, Tom Drees, he's the guy, you know. And then so I put him at card number 3 as a as a nudge, nudge, wink, wink, because he was the guy who was never going to make the major leagues, like Tony Chance.
Yeah. That's funny.
Yeah.
So he was being sneaky about it, so you kind of, you know, gave him a little humble pie, as you should. I mean, like you said, all you had to do was ask you. You would have, you know, be up front. Hey, man, what do you think? You know, and he was just kind of looking out of the corner of his eye, just doing it the shady sort of way, and so
he was driving up the prices on my side. I couldn't buy all the cards as I wanted to because he was trying to get in there and get them at the same time.
Yeah, that's funny. I love it. I got a nice laugh. I knew where that was going, and I was laughing ahead of time, knowing the punchline was coming. So I got to ask you, you know, how many Griffey, 89 Upper Decks do you own personally?
So at one point I had like an entire 660 count full of them, and now I think I have about 500.
Yeah. Are they all? Do you grade them at all, or are they all just raw?
Well, I have some graded, but they're basically just in a 660 count box.
Yeah.
With some filler on the sides.
Yeah. Do you ever get anyone that they know, either they know that or they figure because who you are? Hey man, I don't have one of these. Help me out.
Yeah, I've actually had a couple people. So one is a friend I play softball with. I call it old people softball.
Yeah.
And so I play softball with him, Mike Moser, and he was saying, that he needed one. That was a card that he wanted growing up, and he never had it. And so I sold him one, and he's like, he thought it was way cooler that he bought that card from the guy who made that card.
Yeah.
As opposed to just getting
yeah, no doubt. I was going to ask you, Tom, has anyone ever asked you to sign the card yourself?
Not even my mother.
I just wonder, someone might, maybe, not so much now. He's in the hall, but even in the earlier, days of the card, I just was wondering maybe someone would want.
I'd be defacing it.
Yeah.
If I signed it.
Yeah.
So.
No, that's.
It would go from being worth something to worth less.
Now, do you know Ken Griffey Jr. at all? Has your paths crossed?
No, not really. So we did a photo shoot for Crash the Card. It was a promotion at Upper Deck.
Yeah.
And he was there, and we had some kids posing with him. It was actually one of the DPs. It was his son and daughter.
Yeah.
And they posed, and it was the contest was if you win the sweepstakes, you would appear on the trading card with Ken Griffey Jr. the next year. And he was really gracious to the kids and really difficult with the adults.
Yeah. And
I just sat there in the corner because I saw him, I was kind of art directing the thing, but I wasn't heavily involved because BJ Rivera was doing the photography, and he didn't need any guidance. He's the master. So I would just say some things here and there. And so he had maybe, 3-4 words with me, and then we did some pictures and stuff. They had me get in there and take some pictures. And that was about it.
I mean,
but,
did he know?
Not meet your superstar, your heroes. So
Yeah. Did he know the significance of the card and your role in it at all? Did that get portrayed or relayed at all, or you're not sure?
Yeah, I think so. But he wasn't a card collector.
Yeah.
So he didn't really understand. I mean, if he was a card collector, then maybe he would have put more significance to it. But I was just the guy who made the card, a few years before that. That's about all. I think what he thought of that.
Well, whether the kid, realizes or not, obviously that the hobby does, and a lot of people in the hobby, you moved on after Upper Deck, and you started, you had a couple stops along the way, but then eventually, you formed your own company with Sage, and talk a little bit of the thought process there, and how did your experience at Upper Deck kind of, mold you into what you made Sage, when you did that?
When I was at Upper Deck, we had our own little locked building. We were in a division called the Creative Sports Division.
Yeah.
And nobody really understood how, because I made the cards, like nobody really had any input. I just made them.
Yeah.
And so I put the list out and, you know, get the designs approved, and it was just sort of done. And we won card set of the year the first 4 years, and it was just sort of there. It was just sort of done. Because, I mean, I was going to college full time, and I worked at Upper Deck full time.
Yeah.
And I could make my own hours. So I would come in at, 6 p.m. and work till 2 a.m. or whatever it took to get the stuff done.
Yeah.
And then head off and go to school. And so a lot of the time I was sort of like the magical elves that came in the middle of the night and cobbled the shoes. And they didn't really understand what I did. And whenever I had a boss who did understand, he fell out of power.
Yeah.
And I didn't play the political games at all. I just thought if you worked hard, you'd get ahead.
Yeah.
Little did I know.
Yeah.
But so at that point, I trained my fourth. This is 94. And I just trained my fourth boss at that point. So in 6 years, 4 bosses. And this one got promoted from the IT division because he had season tickets to the Mighty Ducks and was a Washington Redskins fan.
Yeah.
Which doesn't qualify you for anything, by the way. It qualifies you as a fan, and that's about it. So I realized that I was never going anywhere there. And you know, at this point, I'm still only 23, 24 years old.
Yeah.
So they didn't see me as anything more than just an employee.
Yeah.
So I put my resume out and got hired at Scoreboard, and then moved. I was recently married too. I got married in June and moved out to New Jersey with Scoreboard in October of '98. At that point, no, October of '94. Sorry.
Yep.
I left Scoreboard in October of '98.
Yep.
So Scoreboard went out of business, so I figured I could go to Scoreboard and take my knowledge and right the sinking ship.
Yep.
But there were things way beyond my control,
Mm-hmm.
things that I didn't understand, their back doors and whatnot. Product was, we weren't able to craft a consistent product because of the limitations and things.
Yep.
So they ended up going Chapter 11, and at that point, they had promoted me to Director of Card Marketing. So I oversaw the whole entire trading card division. And they asked me to put a consolidation plan together of how the trading card division would look after bankruptcy if they decided to continue to do business.
Yeah.
So I put a plan together, and they said, we're going to go out of business. And I said, well, this is a hell of a plan. So I called up my friend and said, hey, do you want to go into business together?
Yeah.
So at that point, we made Sage. And Sage is actually the first 2 letters of Robert Sadlack, S.A. for Sadlack, and G.E. for Geideman. It's the first 2 letters of my last name.
Yeah.
That's what Sage means. The first time we made trading cards, Robert was in California, and I was still living in New Jersey. We did the entire formal business plan over AOL Messenger and email back in the old dial-up days. And the first time we saw each other after forming a corporation and producing the cards was when we packaged the cards in Dallas, Texas.
Yeah, that's funny.
So at no point in between, but we knew each other.
Yeah, yeah.
So it wasn't a big deal. We knew each other, liked each other, and trusted each other.
Yeah, and I can tell you, I definitely opened plenty of Sage. I remember the basketball draft picks, football draft picks, and the autos. I was quite the fan. I knew your history even then, and
Wow.
So was it hard to start a company like from ground up? Even though I know you in a sense you kind of started from the ground up with Upper Deck, but you now you're the guy. This is your company here with Sage.
It was a major difference, because obviously at Upper Deck I was part of it. I wasn't dealing with all the financial parts. I didn't have to deal with licensing with Major League Baseball, and they didn't want to give us a license at all. They'd just given a license to score the previous year, and I had some role. I helped solicit some sales and stuff, projected sales to help get the licensing intact, and I did a lot of things in the beginning, but it wasn't like the whole ball of wax. I wasn't dealing with any of the amount of stress that they had to deal with all the licensing, and nobody knew how to package anything back then. They had absolutely no clue, and so a lot of that stuff I didn't have to deal with, but then obviously in my own company I had to deal with everything. So I told people I was the president and the janitor at the same time. So
chief cook in the bottle washer.
And then clean it up.
Yeah. One more quick break, and we'll be back with more with Tom Geideman. One of One Card Shop offers a tremendous breaking experience, great customer service, and they're constantly pulling fire. Steve and his family take care of you like one of their own and treat you right. Anyone can break, but no one treats you like One of One. Come check them out on Instagram at one_of_one_card_shop. For all the hot breaks, get a gold mailer headed your way. Have a business or event you'd like to promote or highlight? Become a show sponsor. For a very affordable cost, we can highlight your company or business, either on the podcast or on our website or both. So whether you're a dealer, a breaker, or any other business, we really would love to work with you. Contact us at any of our social medias or email us at sportscardnationpc@gmail.com. That's sportscardnationpc, all one big word, at gmail.com. We look forward to working with you. Well, I mean, I got to ask you, you've got a lot of history, obviously, in the hobby. Like myself, you've seen a lot of stuff through the years. What, here in 2020, the hobby, I mean, it's thinking back of 1989 and now 2020, where cards are now. Like, what are your thoughts on like kind of the current state of the union, if you will, as someone who's seen it go from one end of the spectrum to the other?
Well, there's obviously a lot of good, and there's obviously a lot of bad.
Yeah.
So, to me, the one most troubling thing that I thought that some of these exclusive licenses that, Topps was exclusive in baseball, not that with properties.
Yeah.
But then you have the exclusive for hockey at one point, and then you've got basketball and football. That I thought that would allow less brands to be made.
Yeah.
So that there could be more of that. And I know it's not the same thing as it was when I was a kid, but I mean, I only made so much money around the neighborhood, washing cars and chopping weeds and doing whatever I could to go buy cards for that money. And it would take me a whole year to put together a set, and that's 25 cents a pack.
Yeah.
It would take me almost a whole year, and oftentimes I couldn't complete a set because I just didn't get enough, cards to make the set together. It wasn't, and not all my friends collected, so the trading and stuff wasn't as available. And I thought that with the less brands, we could get kind of back to the point where you can actually collect the product and savor it, sort of. Because if you don't savor it in 2 weeks now, well, there's already another one.
Oh, yeah.
And then you get 2 weeks to savor that one, and then there's another one.
Yeah.
And it's just too kind of crazy that way. There's so many brands and so many different cards. If you miss a guy, there was something to be said, like if you had 86 Topps, which is one of the worst products of all time.
Yeah.
They had, Cecil Fielder was the only guy, and Lenny Dykstra. Those were the only two guys that were kind of worth anything out of that whole series that were rookie cards. And Fielder had to go to Japan for 2 years and come back before anybody even cared about him. Yeah. And then you have, the Donrusses and the Lears at that point where, 86 had Canseco.
Yep.
And there's something to be said for that. Like, I really liked that you could have someone who knew what he was doing, sort of, and put together a product. And it held up for that 6-month time period or whatever until the update series came out. There's something really cool about that.
Yeah.
So now if you miss out on a guy, I'll get him in the one that comes ships next week.
Yeah, it's just it's. I mean, I'll say it. There's oversaturation. I mean, you compare that, and some of that, Tom, I'll put the onus or a little bit of the blame on the sports themselves for what they charge in the licensing. These card companies, they have to. Now I'm not exonerating them completely. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to sound like that. But they're paying so much for the licensing, they have to almost put out these amount of products to recoup and turn a profit. So I
agree with that 100%. By the way,
yeah.
But I think I mean, the problem is obviously shared.
Yeah.
But the majority of the problem is, I think, the licensing bodies, that they haven't restricted the amount of products enough to force more creativity and more, like, in each, less brands and more thought into each one, I think.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even if they can, come to some sort of compromise. Hey, we'll lower the licensing so you don't have to feel like you have to produce 35 sets in a calendar year. And I'm a big fan. I know some of these.
In the long run, they're going to make more money doing it
Yeah.
that way.
Yeah.
In the short term, they make a little bit less, but the long term, it's a gain.
Yeah, and truthfully, I don't know if it'll ever happen again, man. I like to hope so, but I'd like to see that, that not that monopoly where Topps just has baseball and hockey is just Upper Deck. I'd like to see more than one company get to do their take on some releases, even if it means the licensings get lower where they're spread out against with 2 or 3 companies, and maybe in that contract, hey, you can produce 12 baseball sets, Panini, you can do 12, or whoever, Upper Deck, you can do 12. I think it'll bring out competition again between the producers. And, there won't be 35 sets, like you said, from one company. There might be 35 sets, but now you've got 3 different companies with their spin, their innovation, their take on it. And, I don't know if that'll ever happen again. I like to hope so, but, you don't hear a lot about that anymore like you did a few years ago. And so I hope that changes, because to me, I think, not that the hobby's doing very well, but I think that could even make it potentially better, at least for the collector and the people who collect the cards anyway.
And that's what it should be about. It should be about the collector. It should be about, I realize that that nobody's doing this for free.
Yeah.
That manufacturers are doing it to make money, and licensors are doing it to make money, and the players individually are in it to make money. And that's a given, but the focus should be on the collector. It should be a collector-driven industry that allows it to thrive and to gives them choice and gives them opportunities that right now that we're not getting. So.
Yeah, just kind of coming down the home stretch here. Now I know you're a dad. Are your kids card collectors?
So my oldest one is definitely not.
Okay.
She's 23.
Yeah.
Because when you are parent 3,000 miles away from your nearest relative. So when I was living in New Jersey, I was 3,000 miles away from my family in California, and I had a wife who worked, and that my entire savings was in stage.
Yeah.
Everything that I had ever done. So she had picked, at one point she was 2 or 3, and she picked up some cards and no, don't touch those. And so she's kind of scarred for life from that. So she tries to stay away from them. And then I have twins that are 12.
Yeah.
And they like cards, but they're not sports fans at all. So
yeah.
I have all girls. So all my sports knowledge is kind of going to waste.
Yeah. Well, that's all right. That's all right. Being a dad, as a dad, you know this. Being a dad's the greatest job in the world. So,
absolutely.
Yeah. Well, Tom, I appreciate you. Giving us some time, giving Sports Card Nation podcast some time, talking about again the card. You can almost just call it the card now. I know you've done it probably too many times to count on a lot of hands and toes, and it's nice to hear that you don't mind. Sometimes I was listening to an interview the other day with I can't even remember, it was a famous rock band, and it was actually Billy Joel, who was actually one of my favorites, and they asked him, do you get sick of playing Piano Man so much, because it's his classic hit, and he was honest. He goes, I really doesn't do nothing for me anymore, to be honest. He goes, what gets me now is when I do a show and I stop singing and the crowd just takes over the song. He goes, that's that does it for me. But me performing it, he goes, I'm gonna be 100% honest with you. No, I really don't. I've done it just way too many times, and it's when the audience takes it right over and runs with it, and so it's nice.
I'm actually tickled that people want to hear the story.
Yeah, so yeah. Well, that's refreshing.
It's cool. Yeah, it's a great part of my life, and to be able to talk to somebody about it is pretty awesome. Yeah.
Well, we appreciate you coming on and doing it and giving us some of your time. If you want to give out, what you're doing, or if someone, any credentials or websites, I'll let you get the final word in here.
Okay. Yeah. So if you're a football card fanatic, then look up Sage Trading Cards. We're going to be issuing. We just signed, depending on when this releases. I don't know if we can announce it yet, but we just signed the number 1 pick in the draft.
Yeah, I saw that.
Quarterback from a championship team.
Yeah, Joe Burrow.
The Southeast Conference. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, all right. Is that all right?
Yeah.
Oh.
That's fine.
All right.
No. So that's pretty exciting. And then we're putting the final touches on that product right now, and that's always a fun time of year.
Yeah.
Is when we get to create something new and just get to learn about all these different guys.
Yeah.
And it's a fun time of year for sure. So super stressful and super fun all at the same time.
Yeah, and this year's football rookie class, highlighted by Burrow, and you got Tua and many others. Herbert from Oregon, and some really
Jerry Jeudy.
Yeah, wide receiver from Alabama. So it's going to be what looks shaping up to be a pretty good class. So definitely should have a very popular product. If you want to give out your website one more time, I think I kind of interrupted you, so I got excited about Joe Burrows.
Just look up Sage Trading Cards, and we have a product, a hit brand product. That's the one that launches first. There's a Series 1 and then a Series 2, and then Sage Autograph Football will be coming out around May or June.
Yep.
So just keep an eye out for those, and your local hobby shop or distributor will be carrying it.
All right, sounds good. All right, Mr. Geideman, Tom, thank you. I appreciate you coming on and sharing many years of hobby insight and sharing with the listeners, a little backstory about how that iconic card came into fruition.
My pleasure. It was an absolute joy to talk to you, so thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Anytime. Tired of that standard annoying team bag? You know the ones I'm talking about. They get wrinkly, baggy, scratched up, and cloudy where you barely can see your prize cards anymore. I was too, until I found the answer. And that answer was crystal clear. That answer, Superior Fit Sleeves. These sleeves are crystal clear, smooth as silk, and have been what collectors have been longing for all this time. The solution comes in all sizes, from thick magnetics, top loader size, graded cards, and many, many more. I use them. I swear by them. Find yours today at www.superiorfitsleeves.com or go to eBay and search eBay seller Richie707. That's RICHY 707. You can thank me later.
We love our listeners. Without you, there is no us. We care about your opinions and feedback and invite you to reach out to us on any of our social media accounts. On Instagram at Sports Card Nation Podcast, Twitter at SportsCardNati1, or email the show at sportscardnationpc@gmail.com. We don't ask for much, but if you really like the show, give us a shout out. Tell your friends or give us a follow on our social medias. If you enjoy the show, please give us a positive review on iTunes or any of the platforms you are listening on. Thank you.
Okay, time to give away a contest entry for a $50 break credit with 101 Card Shop, Steve Chata. The way to get it, I'm going to answer or ask a question. Hopefully you answer it. Tom Geideman, we interviewed him earlier in the show. I asked him how many 1989 Upper Deck Griffeys does he own? He answered that question. You need to private message the show on any of our social medias. That number he said, how many Griffey Jr. rookies Upper Deck is he the owner of? Yeah, give us the correct number. You will get an entry into the $50 break credit contest. Good luck.
For over 25 years, Newman Sports Cars has set the standard in customer service in the hobby, including same-day shipping. They've added trading card supplies and wax products to their already impressive arsenal of rookie cards, game-used cards, autographed and graded cars. Check their fully searchable website out by Googling Newman Sports Cards or go to bit.ly/Newman Sports Cards. Give them a follow on their social medias on Instagram, Newman_Sports Cards, and on Twitter @NewMSportsCards, or give them a call or text at 315-491-0239. Newman Sports Cards, for all your hobby needs.
All right, that does it for episode 62. Hopefully you had as much fun listening as I did producing it. Great guest. I want to thank Tom Geideman, Upper Deck employee number 1, but he's on to other things now. He's involved in Sage, as you heard him say, Sage Collectibles, getting ready for the football rookie class and draft that they're famous for some of the first autos of those rookies. I think I kind of scooped him on the Joe Burrow stuff. I'm not sure I was supposed to do that, but genie's out of the bottle, as they say. So I want to thank Tom for coming on. We talked off the air. Obviously, he's going to come back. He's got a ton more great hobby stories that he's going to share. Some stuff with Upper Deck, some cards you've probably looked at or had in your hand, and you didn't realize some funny stuff that goes along with it. I don't want to give it away. I'll let him do the honors when he comes back. But believe me, very, very interesting stuff there. So I don't know when you're actually listening to the show. You may have already heard it or missed it. Hopefully heard it. There's a new podcast that I'm involved in. It's called The Hobby Hotline. It's Saturday mornings, 8 a.m., 11 a.m. Eastern Time, 8 a.m. Pacific, including many of your favorite podcasts. This one about the cards, Let Me Get That Potograph, NASCAR Radio, Mike Summer, Wax Pack Hero, and those group of guys, Mojo Break. And we all got together to do this call-in show, video podcast on Saturday mornings. Like I said, it's going to be every Saturday. It's going to be a rotation of hosts. We're going to have guest stars, guest hosts drop in. You can come on the show itself and ask questions, come on the screen and join whoever's on that week, and for some banter, whether you agree or disagree with something you heard. Keep it clean. Don't be too rude, and we'll banter with you. I think it's going to be a great show. You're going to have a wide variety of opinions. There's going to be a lot of giveaways. You got 6, 7, 8 podcasts involved. I give away plenty of stuff here. I'm going to give away stuff there. So it's no different, right? And so are the other shows. And so it's going to be giveaways, banter, come on the air and talk. Tell us what you agree or disagree with. Talk about upcoming releases, hobby issues. And I think it's going to be a great forum. I hope I'm proud to be involved. It's a great group of guys, and there's a great hobby, and it's going to be fun to banter with you folks and do it live too. This is a tape show, obviously, but to do it live is going to be really fun for me, and I think you'll really enjoy the show as well. So even if you missed This one on February 8th is going to be every Saturday. So catch the future ones, again, every Saturday, 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern Time. So have your breakfast with us. You might even see me eating a banana or something on the air. I can't promise you that I won't be. But folks, thanks again. I hope your 2020 so far has been great, barring some of the sad news we've had hobby-wise. I hope 2020 is doing very well for you. January was a great month for me personally, so hopefully that trend continues. So we'll put the bow tie on this thing. We'll see you next Friday in 7 days. We'll be giving away another $50 break credit from 101 Card Shop. So if you missed out on this week, you got 3 more chances in February. 1 every week. We'll see you.
You've been listening to the Sports Card Nation podcast. Join host John Newman next week as he gives you another jam-packed episode of all things related to the sports card hobby. And a little extra fun, too. Don't forget to check out the show on Instagram at Sports Card Nation Podcast.